Lace up your skates, fasten your chin strap, hit the ice, drop the puck. The Johnstown Tomahawks present Hockey Central. Now here's your host, Troy Robert. Welcome in, Johnstown Tomahawk fans, and what a week it was. After a couple weeks off, the boys were back in action, and they did not disappoint. 2 big wins against New Jersey, and actually propelled them to clinch a playoff spot. Northeast has not done well, which means that Johnstown and Aston have both clinched playoff spots. And it was funny, as I prepared for the show, I looked at the standings, and I saw the little X there, and I was baffled. And I actually asked Coach about it to confirm. I thought I knew what it was, but I was thinking, man, 25 games to go in the season. No way did they clinch a playoff spot already. But it is true. Johnstown Tomahawks and Aston Rebels have clinched playoff spots. And I'm going to bring in Coach Letizia today, as always. We have a great guest in store, Filips Buncis, the European captain. Coach and I will talk with him for just a little bit. And then at the end of the show, as always, bring in Mike Gosnell, communications manager. So sit back, enjoy the show. I'm going to welcome Coach in.
It is always a great pleasure to welcome Coach Mike Letizia to the show. Coach, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty well, my friend. How are you?
Well, I was telling you before the show, I had every intention to get down to Johnstown this past weekend, watch the games, had my schedule cleared and everything, and I told you, and Mike, I think, jinxed it by putting me on the spot on the air. I said, everything's pointing that I can make it, and just a ton of personal stuff came up, work stuff, and then I was telling you about my car, flat tire, and the flat tire, you can't just replace one, so you got to, I thought I could fix it with Fix-A-Flat. It was more than that. It was by a valve, and there's a little tear by the seam or something. So you can't buy just one tire, and so I go to NTB, and I got to buy 2 tires, and then they try to sell me 4 tires. I ended up only doing 2 because those are expensive in themselves. But I'll tell you, Coach, it wasn't a good way for me to end the week. I'll tell you. But other than that, I'm doing good. I think our listeners, if they're Steeler fans, are probably not doing so well. But before we get into hockey talk. I mean, the hype that was around these championship games, me being from Green Bay, you're probably all happy, like, hey, the Green Bay Packers got killed. But the hype was, okay, the playoffs had been kind of a lot of blowouts to this point, blah, blah, and it's supposed to be an exciting championship weekend. Packers-Falcons, hot team against a high-powered offense. Steelers had won so many games in a row. This is the year they can knock out the Patriots. And, boy, Coach, 2 fizzler of games, 2 teams that just got dominated. And, of course, ruined my Sunday because I'm a Packer fan, and I live in Pittsburgh, do a Pittsburgh Steelers show. That game was terrible. Both teams got killed. What do you think of the championship weekend for the NFL?
Like you said, it probably wasn't how they drew it up. But Atlanta's been good all year. They've been tough. They're a team that's their offense has always been a big show for them. They got a quarterback, they got a high-end wide receiver, they got a good running back, and their defense has really come along this year. So they were a pretty complete team. So, Green Bay was hot. Obviously, you can never count Rodgers out in any type of game, but they met their match there for sure on Sunday. I didn't expect it to be that big of a win for Atlanta, but credit to them, they came to play, and the Brady career continues. I mean, the guy's unbelievable. It's one of those guys that I think a lot of people don't like, just because of all the success and all the other extracurricular stuff. It always seems to surround the Patriots, but at the end of the day, the guy just wins. You know what I mean? You still got to go out there and play, and when he does, he does. And he's a pretty special athlete, and it's amazing what he's continued to do. And I mean, tough loss for the Steelers, but you look at it and pretty good season. They had a lot of guys missing throughout the year, and they make it that far into the AFC Championship game against one of the best teams in all of football every year. It's tough to lose, but they had a pretty good year, and I think for me, watching that first play, New England came right down. I know they only got a field goal, but they came right down pretty easily and set the tone. And then when Boswell missed, I think he missed an extra point from their first touchdown. I think it was the extra point. And I said, this isn't good. A guy who had 6 field goals last week or whatever it was to basically win the game for them, and then to have that happen. And it was tough. So, but at the end of the day, good season for the Steelers, and should be a pretty good Super Bowl. But, locally, hopefully that ends the football season around here and everybody turns their focus to hockey, and, we can get more excited about that.
Definitely, Coach. And like I told you before the show, I'm going to share our conversation. We're actually going to be on the air on some of the other stations that I do some work with, and going to kind of expand the Johnstown Tomahawk, not just from that, I guess, southeast of Pittsburgh. I think some fans that are up near Pittsburgh and northwest Pennsylvania, if they want to make a trip down to Johnstown, I think they should. Football season is now done and over. I know it's Penguin season, but the playoffs for the Penguins, they don't start for a while. It's time to go down to Johnstown and support the Johnstown Tomahawks. It's great hockey. Coach, I was talking to you before the show, and I thought I knew what the X's mean, and I was asking you, what do these X's mean? Normally that means you've clinched a playoff berth, so I had to ask you and say it ain't true. You've already clinched the playoff spot in your division.
Yeah. Over the weekend we were fortunate enough to clinch a playoff spot. I know it's pretty early, so it's good, and our guys, kind of a testament to the work they've put in this year. Northeast had a tough season so far, so just based upon points and everything, we were able to put ourselves in a position to clinch a spot this early, and now the goal is to continue to work towards home ice advantage in the playoffs, at least in the minimum of the first round, and then work to win the division as a whole. So we have some games in hand and a lot of teams in our division, so it's going to be important for us to obviously win those games that you have in hand, and we have 25 games to go, and I think there's a combined 15 against Aston and New Jersey. Aston's ahead of us, New Jersey's right behind us. And then Wilkes-Barre's coming this weekend, and they're always a tough matchup for sure. So, one small goal of ours is accomplished, just clinching the playoff spot. But we have bigger goals in mind than that. So, the work never ends. But now same thing. I've said it for a while now. Is with the way the standings work, it's hard to look at them sometimes because it can be a little bit misleading. So we just want to go one game at a time, and that's the approach we're going to take day in and day out. Be better than the day before, and just look ahead to what's in front of you, and like I said, just take it one day at a time, one game at a time, one shift, one period. It's all you really can control.
Yeah, you let guys like me worry about the standings. You let the host of the show worry about the standings, right? And
yep.
Throw it out to you. I'll tell you what, Coach, though, you're on a pretty nice tear. Last 10, 9-1. And, you guys had that break and you came out, and you and I had talked about it. Getting back can be a little bit difficult after a little bit of break and the way the season went. But I'll tell you what, home has been good to you guys. 9-1 over the past 10. I know we've talked about a number of things, the high-powered offense, great goaltending, but you look at the past 10, 9-1, Coach. I don't care what sports you're in, winning 9 out of 10. That's one heck of a streak. Can you put your finger on why the success?
100% a team buy-in, and I've said it for a while. It's everybody contributing in some fashion, and nobody caring who gets the credit. We have some guys who have obviously had some really good individual seasons statistically, but they don't care about anything but the 2 points that the team gets, and they're just as happy when anybody else has individual success. It's one of those things where we rely on everybody in some way. Whether it's putting pucks in the net, whether it's keeping pucks out of the net, whether it's killing penalties, blocking shots, getting pucks deep, back checking, being a great teammate on the bench. Every little thing matters, and I will say that, in my opinion, is the biggest thing from this group. Is they're a team. They're completely bought in as a team, and they understand that it's a team effort, and it's going to take everybody doing something and playing the right way to find success. And from a coaching standpoint, that's all you can ever ask for. I feel that I can coach. Dalton, Donovan, Phil, Bruce, Horn, those guys who've been, 3-year veterans in junior hockey, all the way, to Alex Singley, who's the youngest player in the league, rookie, good young player. I could coach them all the same, and they're all willing to listen. It's not, I've been around, or I have this status, or I have this ego. There's very, very few egos at all on our team, and Hopefully that's the way it's going to be, and I think that's probably the biggest thing I've seen. It's a team buy-in, and everybody pulling for each other, and that's what we have to do.
Yeah, well, and Coach, I'm so glad, and I guess from a greedy personal standpoint, I'm so glad that you're 9-1 in your last 10, because for a while there, I thought I was the bad luck charm. I really did, and I know you ribbed me about it, so I'm glad to see the success. But personally, I knew it wasn't going to last, and I'll tell you why, and I gave you props last week. It's every guest that we've had on the show that we talked to, these young men, you are molding them, and you brought it up, they're bought into the system. I've not talked to one of our guests, and one of these young men, that has been all caught up in themselves. And so I'm going to ask you this question, and I know I've done it in the past, but I'm expanding our conversation to a new market. When you go and you're recruiting or drafting or signing players, how important is that character piece to you and their ability to play within the system that you want to coach in Johnstown?
Well, it's extremely vital. You can't have bad apples, and sometimes you have very talented athletes, and their commitment, their character isn't where it needs to be, and then their talent level becomes a lot less meaningful. So we do as much as we possibly can. We're never going to be perfect. You're always going to have a couple mistakes or be misled. It's just human nature. But obviously when we're out there scouting or getting recommendations by different people that we have networks with, you're going to learn first and foremost, about their talent and their abilities. And we look for a lot of things. We look for the skill of the player. We look for their compete level, how they skate, how they think the game, their instincts, their anticipation, what type of body language they have during a game. You can tell a lot by a player from their body language, how they react to things going well for themselves, things going well for the team, or things not going well for themselves, things not going well for the team. You can tell a lot, just seeing their reactions, and sometimes you can pick apart guys a little bit, and you got to have a mindful eye for what you're looking at, and then once we see that initial surface, then we find out what the substance is. I'm a big believer that substance is a lot more important than surface, because you can get fooled pretty easily on what's on the surface, but if you can dig down the layers a little bit and find what's beneath the surface, you can find out a lot more. And so we have to do our digging and reach out to coaches and surrounding people who may know the player or the family, a lot of those things, and you hope you can evaluate enough to find a good person, and because that's ultimately what you need to have. You need to have obviously talented hockey players, but you have to have people who have high character. You can trust bringing them to your organization. You can trust bringing them to the community of Johnstown. You can trust putting them into a host family's home. That's the other big part of this is we have billet families that are going to house these players, and you have to make sure that you can trust putting a player there. And you hopefully after you do all your homework, you can. And then obviously when colleges are calling me for our players, it's the same thing they're asking me. They're going to identify them based upon talent or, production or what they have, the initial surface, and then they did the layers down. They go, okay, well, what type of kid is he? What's his approach at the rink? Does he come to the rink excited? Does he stay on? Does he work on extra things? What are his grades like? What is his family like? I mean, they do their homework as well. So it's all a process, but answer your initial question is character is massive when it comes to this. And, like I said, it's a human nature thing. It's never going to be perfect, but you do your best to perfect it for sure.
Well, Coach, this is my first time being able to do this show with you every week, and I have a great time doing it. Like you said, 25 or so games left, and, to me, it seems like there's a special team in the making to possibly make a run at the title. And I know you can't talk specifically probably about certain schools or certain programs that are calling to inquire about players, but it's now getting to the end of that season. We're going on the downside, and I would imagine the interest for a number of players on this team have probably caught the eye of many colleges, and that's partly due to the team success that you've had. But you do have some talented players on this team that are probably turning the heads in Division I. Can you just touch briefly on that process, and can you name schools, or is that part of the recruiting where you can't say which schools are calling?
No, I mean, it's all over the place. There's the local schools. There's Penn State, Robert Morris. There's schools as far as Alaska, Arizona State, the Ohio area, schools in Michigan, all up the Atlantic coast, the Buffalo area, Colorado. We clearly have, this season is by far the most interest our players have ever received, top to bottom. And it's funny, I've probably brought it up a few times where, it's tough because, you don't really put out releases and say, hey, this player is getting a bunch of interest or this player has been made an offer, but we have players with significant college offers on the table that, are still looking at them or still evaluating, what's the best situation for them. And you can't fault the kid, what I mean? They have to be the one that's going to go there and make it their home for 4 years or however long it's going to be. But there is an extreme amount of interest. Obviously, it's well-deserved. And it's funny because it goes back to what I was just talking about when we're looking at our own players. There's guys that are going to be, scouted or inquired about because of, large stats or, big numbers, a lot of goals, or your goaltender having big numbers. But then there's other teams that say, hey, we have a lot of those guys. We need guys that maybe are going to grind, or guys are going to shut down the other team, or guys with super high character because we're a little bit egotistical in our group because maybe we've had too many of the same players. You got to remember there's only one puck on the ice, so every player can only have it once. So it is a guy that's really strong academically, or there's so many different little pieces to it, and so it goes back to again, trying to find players as much as you can that have talent, have good character, and also are pretty strong academically, because if they have that, I guess you can call it a hat trick. You have three of it. You have skill, character, and academics. Now all of a sudden, your doors are way more open to possibilities than maybe some other ones. You know what I mean? So, colleges are here every night. Division I schools, Division III schools, NHL teams are coming to watch players at times. So, it's a whole slew of things. Like I said, our guys are getting a lot of interest. We're on the phone daily. We're on emails daily. We're in text messages daily. We're in person daily if they're at our games. It's just a whole process, and it's one of those things where, like I said, I think once one of our guys makes a decision, it's going to kind of be a snowball, and things are going to start rolling from there, and it's going to go till the end of the season. It's going to go into the summer. It's a lot of things that happen, and I'm a big believer as well as as far as the team goes, the individuals go. And I've seen it firsthand. And the farther you play in the playoffs, the more opportunity you are to be seen, the less the field gets of other teams and other players for you as a player individually. And ultimately, teams love winners. They love guys that were able to win, guys that knew what it took to win, and that's a big thing. So, and our guys know that. We want to take this season and go with it as far as we possibly can. There's a hunger inside the locker room that I think the guys have a burning desire to do good things, and hopefully create success for us in the end.
Yeah, Coach, you've done a heck of a job, too, getting the exposure to these kids. I mean, if anybody wants to go to JohnstownTomahawks.com and just read Coach Letizia's bio, I think the one thing that stood out to me before I started doing the show and as I prepped for it before our first ever episode, Coach, is not necessarily, and I know the wins and the losses and the success, that those are things as a coach that you want, but the thing that stood out to me was the number of players that have moved on from Johnstown to that next level. And you and I have talked extensively about it. We talk about it a lot, moving these kids on. That's the purpose of the NAHL, is to develop these young players, and you've done a heck of a job with it. And I would imagine that as you approach players in the competitive market with opportunity to sell Johnstown, has probably become a little bit easier when they see players year after year after year moving on to the next level. That has to help you when it comes to that point of signing players and getting them on your team.
Yeah, you'd like to think so. You'd like to think that has a big part of it. You hope it does, because you hope that you're able to, help players get to the next level, and then players that are, looking to move into your club ultimately see that as a bonus, and and it's a whole collaboration. I mean, it's obviously guys moving on to NCAA. It's guys, having a good environment to hopefully be a part of, having an opportunity to win, hopefully to get better as hockey players, get better as people, playing in a good community with a good fan base, a good arena, a great arena. It's a big crowd every night, a lot of new things at the War Memorial, good atmosphere, treated very well by our ownership group. There's a lot of bonuses for playing for the Tomahawks, and we just hope we can continue to expose that opportunity to these young players that are looking to move on to the next level, and keep building teams here that have success as a team. Hopefully, provide individual success for those players from that team success, and then move them on out of Johnstown better people. And I think then if we do that, we've done a good job.
Well, you have been, Coach, and like I said, this is a team. When you're looking at it, you're setting, and I'll put it this way, and I'm going to knock on wood, but you're setting the table to really do some special things in Johnstown this year. I mean, you look at this overall makeup of the team. I think you've got the keys to success. You got the goaltending. You've got the firepower, and like you said, it's not just one guy. You don't have to lean on one guy every game to say, hey, score some goals, get us out of a hole. You've got a team where you look at, and I know people look at points, but it's not always about the points. Sometimes it's that dirty play, and not in the way of people are thinking dirty play. It's that dirty, gritty style, that forecheck that needs to be made, that check that needs to be made, that extra pass that needs to be made. I'm getting the sense that this team, like you said, has bought into this, and you've set the plate now moving forward. And like we've talked about, you may not be first in the division now, but you got 2 games in hand against Aston, plus you got 8 games against them moving forward. So as you move forward, Coach, and you look at these last 25 games, as a coach, how are you preparing? Because I think you guys can win this division. So are you going to do anything extra special? I mean, what is the next month or so in store? I mean, the goal is probably to win the division. How do you instill that into the players?
It's an environment, it's that environment that you try to instill into the guys, that they want to come to the rink, they want to do what they can to get better, to improve. Again, you never stop learning, and you never stop focusing on the habits that make yourself successful. I've said a few times before, we're not a team that has a 50-page playbook. We have some structure to our game. We have ideas of how we want to play. We have the ideas to our guys that if we have an idea of what we want to do, is how hard we want to compete, or the little habits, the little details within the game, that if we have to make adjustments or we have to change how we play depending on how the team is, that because of the habits and the competitive nature and hopefully the instincts of the players, we're able to do that. And, and I told the guys before the game this weekend, because we had 2 weeks off, and, we focused on a lot of different things. We had enough practice time that we could really break things down each day and, have a big focus this day or a big focus that day, and maybe some structural things. And we looked at, game footage in New Jersey and saw a few tendencies they had. So we said, this is how we'd like to play against them and hopefully counteract those tendencies. But before the game, I talked to the guys and I said, systems are great, but I had a story when I was a young kid, and it was one of those things, okay, player A goes here, player B goes here, player C goes there. Well, what if player B falls down? What are you going to do? All of a sudden, is your whole playbook going to go to waste because now that player B is laying on the ice, and you got to make an adjustment. So the play within the systems is just as important, if not more important. So we have to trust our guys that they're going to play the right way and be able to do what's asked of them. And our guys are really starting to learn, and hopefully we can continue to learn that, the minute you play the wrong way, the minute you get away from what works, is the minute you find yourself in trouble. If you get ahead of yourself, if you get a 1 or 2 goal lead and all of a sudden you start to cheat the game, it doesn't work. You got to get back to playing the right way. Or, hey, if you're struggling in the game, there's some ways to tweak it, and hopefully you get out of it. So for us, it's a constant reminder that, these are the dog days now, middle of January, middle of February. It's a long season. It's cold. It's snowy. They're the dog days, and you got to have guys having fun still coming to the rink. And we've been able to, to see that in our guys, and hopefully it continues, and we hopefully continue to have success because it makes the dog days less grueling. I think our guys understand what's in front of us, and that they hopefully they want to go and take that challenge and run with it. Like you said, there's a lot of opportunity. Yeah, we're a little bit behind the standings from the top spot right now, but the games are in our control. You do play a team that's ahead of you a lot of times, and you got to win those games. So we're hoping to just continue to grind it out, get better as much as we possibly can. And, from a staff, obviously we've played everybody now. It's getting to the point of the season where we're going to, everybody's played each other. Everybody knows each other. Everybody has access to the team, what we've done. It's been, 4 or 5 times each team, maybe more. So we're going to start looking at those tendencies. And it's a lot of little tendencies. Sometimes it's just what they do on the face-off, that you can counteract, and all of a sudden you're spending less time in your own zone, you're gaining possession earlier, on their forecheck, on their breakout. Where are some of the tendencies? You try to figure those things out, and then it goes back to, okay, what do we do within those tendencies? How hard do we work? How do we focus on the details? What are our habits like? What are our instincts like? So, again, it's a whole process. It probably sounds like a lot, but these kids come to work every day, and they're just looking to get better and hopefully having team success every time you play somebody.
Well, Coach, you brought up something I wanted to move into. You start playing these teams over and over and over, and great weekend. I mean, pretty much, New Jersey came in, who's always been, and I'm not saying the games weren't tough, but you look at it and you took care of business rather handily this past weekend, and you start playing teams over and over. Is there a point where it just comes down to who wants it more? I mean, because the other teams so well when you start getting to, as you call it, the dog days of January and February?
Absolutely. Last year we only had 4 teams in the division, so you played everybody within the division 16 times, and, by the time you play somebody 10 times, because this is what they're going to do. You're going to do, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. There's a few tweaks here and there, but everybody's focused on themselves, first and foremost, and you can maybe run a few tweaks, but it's about who wants it more. I think that was the case this weekend with New Jersey. We talked before. We went out there early November. We won the first game. I remember the next 2 games. We fell into some penalty trouble and, got burned a little bit on some power play goals, and we lost 2 of the 3 games. So we were not happy about that, and our guys remembered that for sure. And we had that weekend off. Would have been 2 weeks ago now, so we had a long time to wait from our last game to another opportunity to play against an opposing team. So Friday night we came out flying. The guys are ready from the drop of the puck. We controlled the pace the majority of the game, controlled possession, outworked them, outskilled them. Really the only chance they had a lot of times were on the power play, and our guys did a pretty good job killing off every power play they had. But we were really good on Friday for sure. Their goalie made some big time saves, especially early in the first period where that game could have got out of hand right away. But our guys stuck with it. They battled, did a lot of good things, And then Saturday, they came out hard in the first game. Obviously, we knew they were going to have a little bit of pushback. We from Friday night from us taking it to them a little bit, so they came out pretty good in the first period. We had to find ourselves a little bit, but Drew played very well. So it was 0-0 after the first, and we made a few in-game adjustments after the first period that I thought helped us a little bit just to kind of counteract what they were doing. They got the first goal, just a little bit of a breakdown. They were able to pop it in, but then Storky came down with a absolute laser beam over the goalie's glove to get us on the board, and then we scored again a couple minutes after that. And then 10 seconds into the third, it was 3-1 us. And then Donnie scored a couple minutes after that, 4-1, and then the rest was history. So good job by our guys for sure. You get an opportunity at home against a team that you're battling with some positioning with, and you come out and you sweep them 4-1 games and play pretty well. I was really proud of the guys' effort for sure.
Yeah, Coach, they come in bundles, don't they? They come quick. You get one, and another one comes. That's the way that the world works. But my last question, I know Filips has joined us, and we'll get to him in just a minute, but my last question for you is actually perfect timing. You take care of business against a very good New Jersey team. It has to be a world of confidence now, and as I say, you're kind of going down the slope now. You've got to that midpoint, now you're going downhill to get to the playoffs. How much of a confidence booster was this past weekend? I mean, like I said, you pretty much took care of a very good New Jersey team pretty handily. And, I'm not even looking at the score. I mean, you look at it and, everything goes on. How big of a confidence builder is this going into this, home stretch?
It was big. We've been fortunate the last couple of weeks here, last couple of months. We've been able to pick up some wins, but we say every day there's no easy day, and I've probably said on this show a few times, there's no easy day in this league. The guys know that. There's no easy games ever. The second you think there is again, the second you're going to find yourself in trouble. But after the game, I think the message to me was pretty clear after the game Saturday night. We won both games, got the sweep, which was our goal. The guys do their little post-game ritual. They hand out the their selection for player of the game, and Saturday night I believe it was Logan Stork who got it, and it was short and sweet. He just said, "Great weekend, boys. Let's get back to work Monday." I mean, that was it, and that's the mentality that I hope that they have. It's, hey, we come to, we got the games the weekend. Our job is to go out there, play the right way, win games, right back to work, and just keep it going. And that's the attitude, and that's the approach we want to have, because it's a marathon, not a sprint, and we just want to keep grinding and keep getting contributions across the board from everybody in our locker room. And like I said, next day mentality. We gotta be ready to go, and one day at a time. So we're really looking forward to Friday night. Hopefully we continue the success and carry it over from last weekend.
Sounds good. Well, Coach, I'm going to welcome in Filips Buncis. Filips, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good. We have an international star on our hands today, and I say that because you had an opportunity to play in the World Juniors, and I had a chance to watch you on TV. That was a pretty exciting thing, knowing that I host the show with Coach, and then you had a chance to play. What was your experience like in the World Juniors?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's always nice to see my friends and teammates from back home and play for my country, which is a big honor. But also playing on that big stage, it was exciting to play against the top players in the world. So it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot about myself and how to play against such teams like that.
Yeah, and I know that the results probably weren't where you want them. I know you guys took a couple on the chin as far as the team went. But, like you said, having that exposure, having that experience, it's probably something you'll never forget.
Right, yeah, exactly. Obviously, we want to do better. Our goal was to make the quarterfinals and play in playoffs, but we lost to Slovakia, and which was a little upsetting, but I think we represented our country pretty good, and it was still a good experience. Yeah,
and I know I talked with Coach while you were participating, and you were holding your own out there. And you look at playing for Johnstown, and you're playing around a bunch of guys, and Coach has mentioned this many times, a team that is it's team-focused, and the points will come if you're not greedy about it, I guess is how I'll put it, Coach. But, Filips, I look at this team, and you're surrounded by guys like Nick Bruce, Donovan Ott, Dalton Hunter. How important is it to play with a group of guys that have that talent level that is at, or maybe even a little bit above where you're at? Does it push you harder? Is it a confidence level? How do you feel playing with guys that have that talent level around you?
I feel like it just makes me play better also, and it's not like it doesn't really. I don't know. It would make me feel like a little bit more confident, or like you said, it would make me push myself a little harder, but that's every day I try to help my teammates as well. It's not just about me. I help my teammates get better and push them harder, so it just works both ways, really.
Yeah, and so you probably had a little different route to Johnstown, and I want the listeners to know, like we said, you had played in the World Juniors because you're not born and raised in the United States. So can you give the listeners a little, I guess, a short version of your journey to Johnstown? Give them a little background where you're from and how it came to be that you ended up in Johnstown.
So basically, I used to play in Latvia. That's where I played my youth hockey years, and then it was, I think, 3 years ago, I decided to move to the States and try to play here play junior hockey, and then hopefully move to college. That was my big dream at that time, and I started off in Atlanta, which was a AAA team. It wasn't really a junior team. I started off there in the summer, but I played there for like 10 games or so. So I moved up to USHL, which I was also there for like 10 games or so. Didn't last for that long, and then somehow I ended up in Johnstown, which at first I didn't know a lot about this league or about Johnstown at all. Only thing I knew was the Slapshot movie. But
well, no, I'll tell you, Phillips, that's probably a true statement for a lot of people that don't know where Johnstown is. Anybody that's listened to the show is probably like, oh, Johnstown, yeah, I remember that. It was from that movie Slapshot. So now you're here, though, and doing very well, very successful. You are, we talked about individual numbers, doing very well individually. The team's doing very well. And when you look at it, you've had a chance to play in some different areas of the country, not only the United States. But when you look at Johnstown, what makes Johnstown special to you?
I would say those are the fans for sure. That'll be the first big thing, that we get really good support here, and fans are always there for us. And the other thing would be the rink, like the War Memorial. It just gives you that special feeling whenever you practice or whenever you have a home game. The whole history behind it, and it just gives you a really, really good feelings when you step on that ice.
So what does the future hold? I mean, you had mentioned coming to the States to possibly, go to college. I mean, you look at where you're at now, and you're looking at your time with Johnstown. What's the next step? Is it possibly college? Is there some opportunity for that, or is it just going to be to continue in the ranks of hockey and one day try to pursue that goal of playing in the NHL?
Honestly, that's everyone's dream to make it to the NHL, but we'll see what happens this season. I mean, there's still a lot of games to play, and first big goal for me is to go as far as we can in playoffs and focus on this season with Johnstown, and then after that, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, my goal would be to go college, but you never know.
Yeah, you got to kind of play it out. I understand that completely. So I look at your story, and just to see a guy that able to come from international to really a little town of Johnstown and make such a major impact. I really like that story, and hopefully my listeners and our listeners can go to JohnstownTomahawks.com and get to your bio, read your bio, or come down and watch you play. So, Phillips, I ask everybody this question. I'm an opposing coach, and I am scouting Phillips, and I want you to tell me what is the strongest part of your game right now, and then as a player, what part of your game do you think that you need to continually improve on from day to day?
So I'd say my strongest side would be playing physical and playing 200 feet game. That means playing on both sides. Either it's defense or playing offense. I like playing both ways and on both sides of the puck. I think that's what I do good. So I can play, both ways. And what I should keep getting better at would be the same things, playing more physical, even more than I do now, and probably shoot more because I can do that.
Well, Coach, this is where I'm going to turn it over to you. We got Phillips on the phone, and Coach, I've got to get the rundown from Coach's standpoint. What has Phillips meant to the team this year?
He's the captain. He's the heart and soul. Coming out of last year, looking at everything, he was the number one candidate coming out of last season, and he remained that way through the summer and in a training camp. And Phil embodies everything that I talked about before about what we want in players. He's a skilled player. He competes every single day. He plays 200 feet. He plays on both sides of the puck, like you just mentioned. His instincts are good. He's very smart. He's well-rounded. He's a high character individual that everybody loves. Everybody follows. He's always willing to go the extra mile, whether it's on the ice, after practice, setting up something for himself off the ice to do. He's here to play hockey. Phil's a hockey player, and he's meant a lot to our team. He means a ton to our community, our entire organization. He's just a fantastic person and an outstanding hockey player, and we're very, very fortunate to have him in Johnstown. It's been a journey for Philly. He came here halfway through, like you said, that one season, finished off half the year, really improved last year, and has had a great season this year. So sky's the limit for him now and in the future, and just happy to be a part of his career, and hopefully he can keep leading us the way he has and to bigger and better things.
Yeah, he's going to be one hard player to replace, I would imagine, on that roster.
The other thing is, and I mentioned earlier, he is a piece of Johnstown history. He is the first ever European captain in the history of Johnstown hockey, not just the Tomahawks, the entire Johnstown hockey history. That's pretty big history, pretty long history, and he's the first ever European captain, and I think that speaks volumes to the type of person he is. So big props to him for sure.
Yeah, and you were mentioning that, and I said he's going to be a tough piece to replace once he moves on to bigger and better things on that roster. So, Philips, I always ask, and I'd like to have a little bit of fun with the players. So I know you're a guy that likes, you play, like you said, 200 feet. So you got a couple of choices here. If you had your choice, would you rather like to bury a one-timer into the net, score a breakaway 5-hole, or just have a bone-jarring check on the boards? Which of those three, if you could only choose one, would make you the happiest in a game?
Probably body check.
Coach, did you expect anything else as an answer from him?
I thought he was going to say all three, but yeah, that tells you how he respects both sides of the game right there.
Okay, Philip, so I'm going to ask you this. Again, you're by trade a forward, but the physical play, the defense, how important is it for a forward to get very involved and play the 200 feet as far as you look at the game of hockey? How important is it for a forward to buy into being, I don't want to say defensive specialist, but a forward that can play defense? How important is that?
Well, I would say, obviously, I would think people don't pay that much attention to it when they play in youth hockey at youth hockey level and stuff. But whenever you move up in juniors and play at this higher level, that it all comes down to details, and you're gonna definitely win more games if the forwards if they can play a good defense and play on both sides of the puck. Because if you're only good in offense, it's not going to be any good for a team in the long run. So
yeah, definitely. Well, I'll tell you what, Coach Phillips, I'm looking at the time, and our time is up once again. So, Coach, as always, a pleasure talking to you on the show. Phillips, I appreciate you being a guest today, and good luck this weekend.
Yep, thank you.
All right,
all right, Coach. We'll talk again next week.
Sounds good. We'll see you.
All right, have a good day, guys.
You too.
Yep, thank you, bye.
And we're at that portion of the show where I welcome in Mike Gosnell, Communications Manager of the Johnstown Tomahawks. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm actually coming to you live on the road. I'm going to the Pittsburgh Penguins St. Louis Blues game tonight on Tuesday. So everything's going well. I get to see Vladimir Tarasenko hopefully defeat the Pittsburgh Penguins. Not a Penguins fan at all. I think everybody knows that about me. So doing well.
Well, that's good. Well, and we know that this past weekend, I talked to Coach earlier about football. The NFL is probably not so happy that, the Green Bay Packers, who I cheer for, got totally annihilated. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers got totally annihilated. They were probably hoping for better championship games. But how did you enjoy the NFL football weekend?
Oh, I enjoyed it as a Patriots fan. Can't say I was surprised at the outcome. Overall, I was really surprised that Green Bay failed to show up like they did. But overall, pleased. Happy to see New England going to, I believe, this. I don't know. I don't exactly know the number. 9th Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's their record 9th Super Bowl. They broke the tie. So they have now. They will be the most, glorified franchise for Super Bowl appearances with 9. But, this show, we're not talking football, Mike. We're definitely talking Johnstown Tomahawks. Talked to Coach, 9-1 in their last 10. Basically took care of New Jersey this weekend, a team that is a strong team.
and really took care of business. Gave the boys some confidence moving forward. Another great weekend of hockey. Talked about, having the table set for the rest of the season. I know they're a couple points behind Aston, but they have 8 games against Aston and 2 games in hand. Things are looking bright for Johnstown. It was a great weekend of hockey. What's going on, from your side in the communications department over there?
Well, it's always my job is easier when the team wins, and last week we really came out strong against New Jersey. We put the boots to them, and it was noticeable that our guys came to play. We played a full 60 minutes each night, and we're going into a stretch of the season where we're going to have tough competition. We're going to have New Jersey a lot, going to face Aston. Here we have another 8 games against them, and you got a tough team in Wilkes-Barre coming in. But from my side, everything's easy when we win. We got 2 exciting games coming up with the kids run the show. So we got a kids weekend lined up here the 27th and 28th, and the Superstars will be in attendance on the 28th. That's a Saturday night, 7 o'clock face-off. If you haven't heard of the Superstars, you really need to go on YouTube and just type in Superstars, ZOOPERSTARS, and you'll laugh your butt off. I mean, this is a very very zany routine that they put on during sporting events. So we did it last year. Unfortunately, we had a big snowstorm that weekend, so attendance was a little sparse. But we're hoping that the weather's going to be good this weekend, and the Superstars will entertain the masses.
Yeah, definitely. Always good to have a little bit of entertainment. Now, Mike, I know that, as we look at this season, a lot of home games yet to be played. Let these listeners know where they can get their tickets, because it's going to be exciting hockey. Like you said, Aston, 8 games, not all at home, but they got Aston. They've got New Jersey. Wilkes-Barre coming in this weekend. Good competition coming up, but this, I told Coach Mike, to me is starting to kind of mold into maybe that special team. The way that they have put the season together, they've only lost 8 games, and there's a lot of home games coming up. Let the fans know where they can go get tickets.
Right, and I don't know if you and Coach from you and Filips talked about it, but if you would look on the standings page on the NHL website, you'd find a little X next to our name. That means we have clinched a playoff spot. And I know fans will think, well, how this early? Unfortunately, the Northeast Generals not playing very well. Things are not going their way. And as a result of that, mathematically, it would be impossible for us not to be in a playoff spot. So we are officially heading to the 2017 Robertson Cup playoffs. Where we're going to be seated, however, is another story for another day. So I don't know if I just broke that story or if you and Coach talked about it. But anyway.
We talked about it, and I'll interrupt you there, Mike. It's funny because I always prep for the show. And I went to the standings, and I saw the X. And I know what the X means traditionally in standings, but I had to ask Coach live on the air, what does the X mean? I thought it meant playoffs, but I'm like, there's no way they've already clinched the playoff first. And he's like, yeah, Northeast has not been doing well. We're already in. And it's like, holy cow. So, yeah, I was one of those guys looking at it going, an X already for both these teams? Nah, that can't be right. So I asked Coach. He verified it. You verified it. So that means not only are there some games yet in the regular season, that means you got to get your playoff tickets, right, Mike?
Yeah, but we'll cross the playoff bridge when we come to it. We still have a lot of home games left, and you know what? Perfect segue. Fans can actually purchase their remaining tickets via Ticketmaster by calling 1-800-745-3000, online at Ticketmaster.com, or you can stop by the War Memorial box office Monday through Friday. And if you have group tickets, come and see us at the Tomahawks office behind Section 14, or give us a call, 536-4625. That's an 814 area code.
Sounds good, Mike. I know that you're on the road traveling up to PPG Paints Arena to watch the Penguins and the Blues, so safe travels to you. Enjoy the game. You and I will talk next week. Hopefully the Tomahawks have extended their winning streak and have positioned themselves a little bit better in the playoff seeding. But always a pleasure talking to you, Mike.
Sounds good. Hey Troy, when are you coming by? When are you coming to the War Memorial? We've been planning this for weeks.
Oh, You don't want me to get into the story on the air, Mike. I know. I know. Actually, as I said, bearing things, and it was crazy. I am now actually, since I did not make it last weekend like I was going to, I've actually now talked to my wife and said, look, you're going to go with me, and we're going to go more than one. So not only will you get me, you might be graced by the presence of my wife at one of the games, too. How would that be?
Well, the more the merrier.
Yeah, I'll tell you. And just to, like I was telling you before the show, my Friday morning started off just horrid with a flat tire that turned out where I had to go get my tires replaced. And then it went downhill from there. So it started at 6 a.m. on Friday morning, and then I'm a Packer fan, so it didn't get better. My weekend didn't actually get better until probably yesterday morning when I woke up and said, thank God this weekend is over. That's really one of those weekends, Mike, that you did that. So, but you know what? I'm excited, and I want to get down. I want to watch because this is a special team, and I've said it now on the show earlier, and I'm saying it again. Just something talking to these players, talking to Coach. I think this has something special in the making this year. So I'm glad to be part of it, and I thank you for letting me do the coach's show.
Well, you know what? It was a great idea, and not to jinx us or anything, but hopefully we're talking to you from Duluth, Minnesota after we lift a certain trophy at the end of the year. So
I would love nothing better than you guys to be calling in and doing a coach's show from Minnesota to prepare for that series. That would be awesome. But we're going to let the fans go, Mike. Again, I know you're traveling, and I will get down. And then when I do, you can pat me on the back and say, "Hey, finally, nice to see you." And then you probably won't. Then you'll probably get sick of me after that.
All right. No, I don't think that'll happen. But always good to talk to you, Troy. Hopefully the fans will. Hopefully fans come out this weekend. We look forward to seeing everybody.
Yep. I'll talk to you next week, Mike.
Yep. See you, Troy. Thank you very much.
Well, folks, the music has started. The horn has sounded. That means another episode of Hawkey Central is a wrap. It's in the books. Done. Over. Kaput. Make sure you get out to support the Johnstown Tomahawks as they take on Wilkes-Barre Scranton Knights. Also, make sure you find me on Twitter, TroyRobert967. Tweet at me if you have any questions for Coach Letizia. I'll try and get him on the show next week. Have a good week, everyone.